My name is John Matanza, and for this presentation, I will be sharing a self-help book written by Jeff Brown and Mark Fensky. The book is titled The Winner's Brain: 8 Strategies Great Minds Use to Achieve Success. Now, why do people read self-help books? People read self-help books, I guess a simple answer is that people do to learn new ideas or concepts. They want to be more successful, solve their problem. For whatever reason, we all have a different definition of success. The book we'll be going to covering for this presentation is called The Winner's Brain. And something about the author, Jeff Brown and Mark Fensky. Jeff Brown is a Harvard clinical behavioral psychologist, and his colleague Mark Fensky is a neuroscientist. Mark Fensky's work is a marriage between neuroimaging and study of behaviors. To be specific, it's a studies of behavior to examine both how the brain's attention and emotion system can enhance performance. Now, we all have different definition of success, and our authors in the book use the word winners for successful. For successful people, they use the word winners, and these are the definition they offered for winners. You can find this on page 6 of the book. Our definition of winners encompasses the usual conception: people who meet with extraordinary success in the particular aspects of life they value the most. So that's their definition of winners. The main theme of the book is that the brain can be reshaped and rewired to be successful. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to give us a blueprint of the brain of those successful people and that of an average brain. And what they're trying to say is that we can actually reshape the landscape of our brain to that of successful people. Now, they offered 8 strategies great minds use to achieve success. First is self-awareness. Second is motivation. Third is focus. Fourth, emotional balance. Fifth is memory. Sixth is resilience. 7, adaptability. And 8, brain care. Now, the authors combined their own knowledge with those of other researchers. So throughout the presentation, you're going to hear me talk about other research or other studies by other experts. So we're going to start with the first one, self-awareness. Now, how do we develop a sense of awareness that will better our chances of creating situations favorable to success? So in the book, what the author is saying is that we all have our public persona, and we also have our own self-persona. And what we need to do is to close the gap between the two. And what results from that is that we see how others sees us, and how the world relates to us, and how we relate to the world. Now, moving on to win factor number 2, motivation. According to the authors, when someone is motivated, motivation primes the brain to see rewards even when they are long a way off, and indeed, even when there are no guarantees those rewards will ever come. Now, they discussed that there are also three-phase process involved with motivation, when motivation flows through our brain. And it's an analogy of driving, actually. So if you look up here, it says motivation. The first one was this 3 process is mapping. Mapping is the same as route planning or goal setting. And the next one is revving. Revving is just putting your, it's urging you to do something, putting intention into action. And MRI studies shows in this, when someone is motivated, a study back in 2007 by Carrie Eddington from Duke University and her colleagues showed that the brain actually light up like Las Vegas. That's how she illustrated it, when someone feels highly motivated and action-oriented about a specific goal. Now, the third process is driving. This moves in a very specific direction to achieve the destination or goal. Now, the difference between average brain and the winner's brain is that an average brain tend to stall while the winners cycle through the motivation process over and over to meet their goals on a consistent basis. So that's the second win factor, motivation. Now we're moving to the third one. It's called focus. This is locking on to what's important to you and trying to quiet down all the distractions. Now there's a lot of distractions in our everyday life. There is checking your email, cell phones, and other life concerns. Now Brown and Fensky outlined 5 easy steps to reinvest your focus, and I'm going to read it to you guys. First, admit to yourself you're off task. Second, remind yourself of the original task and why it's important. Third, if possible, eliminate the factors that derail your attention. Turn off cell phone, close email, grab a sandwich, finish a conversation, whatever it might be. Choose a starting point. Cue yourself with words like go and get back on task, noticing the rich details of what you are doing. If you're reading something you're trying to stay focused on, put a check mark at the bottom of every page, or every so often jot a word in the margin. And last, pay attention to the small details you may not ordinarily notice to give you a new perspective on the task at hand. Moving along, number 4, win factor. Number 4, emotional balance. Now, what does emotional balance means to our authors? For a winner's brain, winners recognize and anticipate emotional responses both in themselves and others, so they can start, stop, and adjust emotions to fit any given situation. You can find that on the book, page 108, and on page 111, they added that the difference between a winner's brain and that of an average brain is that winners make a point of directing their emotions in a productive way. They don't simply spew out emotions in an uncontrolled or thoughtless manner. They are highly sensitive to their emotional responses, even the negative ones, so that emotions can make positive contributions to current and long-term goals. Page 111. Now, researchers Ochsner and James Gross from Stanford University on emotion regulation believe that, based on their studies, that you can influence your emotional reactions. But to do so, you need to know the following. Or first, the knowledge of your emotional inventory. They're talking about your baseline and your comfort zone. Second, the ability to make reasonable predictions about which situations lead to which emotions. Now, some circumstances obviously are going to be out of your control, but for the most part, we are able to choose and manage our emotions. Now, moving on to win factor number 5, memory. The most important thing to get from this one, memory, is that how to make your memories durable and how can we retrieve it when needed. Boston University researchers Elizabeth Kensinger told both of our authors on page 130 that the way information is initially processed in your brain can influence the likelihood that it becomes stored in a more durable format. Now, how do we do this? She offered this explanation. We can do so by making a connection between new incoming information and existing knowledge that we already have, and try to connect the meaning of those information. Just illustrating a winner's brain when it comes to memory. Winner's brain capitalizes on ways to purposely strengthen memory traces for important information to ensure that it can be effectively retrieved when it's most needed. Number 6, moving on to resilience, win factor number 6. What sets apart a winner's brain from that of an average brain when it comes to resiliency? On page 140, a winner's brain recovers from life challenges by dealing with shortcomings, misfires, and failures, whether they are self-generated or brought on by circumstances beyond one's control. Winners reframe failures so that they can work to their advantage and recognize that when things don't go according to plan, the journey isn't necessarily over. And in fact, failure is often a new opportunity in disguise. Okay, the next one is adaptability, win factor number 7. So far, all these areas, can be transformed as far as our brain and be improved upon because of the brain's remarkable trait called plasticity. So for number 7, we're going to cover plasticity. It's basically the brain can literally reshape and change and rewire itself. When you're using your brain, it forms new branches, neural pathways, and all those things. But for information we don't use, it's like a dying tree. You start pruning all the dying branches. So according to Brown and Fenske, the brain keeps on changing no matter what, and the change depends on what we do with them, what we do with our brain. For example, negative thoughts and actions can lead to undesirable brain alterations, while positive thoughts and action can lead, you can reap the benefits of that, which are beneficial ones. Again, what sets a winner's brain from that of an average brain when it comes to adaptability? Winners, they take control of the plasticity of the brain by intentionally making the changes they want, and they deliberately take the steps to think and act in ways that fine-tune their brains and help to achieve their goals. Brown and Fenske, page 160. Now, last among the 8 strategies great minds use to achieve success is brain care. Like your body, you need to take care of your brain. And you can optimize brain function by taking care of your brain. And the author has identified 4 brain care habits. First is physical activity. Second, providing your brain rich and meaningful experiences. Eating a brain-healthy diet. And last, getting plenty of good sleep. Now, why physical activity? Physical activity improves the flow of blood to the brain, and it promotes growth of new neural connections. And also, it brings oxygen, which is sort of an ignition to your brain, and glucose, which is the fuel source to your brain. Eating a brain-healthy diet. If you don't know, the brain is made of 60% fat, and as far as the brain-healthy diet, we're talking about consuming polyunsaturated fat, not saturated fat. Example of polyunsaturated fat would be the omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. Last is getting plenty of good sleep. Why? Because sleep equals brain restoration. And REM during sleep, rapid eye movement, during sleep actually replenishes glycogen. So the brain uses glucose, and the brain also uses glycogen as a backup fuel source. So in conclusion, Brown and Fenske offered 8 great strategies here using our brain to succeed. They provided the blueprint and how can we actually train our brain, reshape it, rewire it. And just to review, the 8 areas are self-awareness, motivation, focus, emotional balance, memory, resilience, adaptability, and brain care. Now, all of these areas can be improved upon because of the brain's adaptability to reshape its own landscape by rewiring itself and tailoring it and molding it to that of a brain of a winner's brain. This concludes my presentation. I hope you learned something new tonight. Thank you for all for coming.